Okay.
Okay, we're good. So everyone that's joining at home, we are picking back up with our budget work session that ran a little over. So we're going to pick up, if you're following along at home, with what page number is the police department on?
17.
Page 17, and we're picking up with the police department and Chief Arnold Downing here with us. Go ahead, sir.
All right, good evening, everyone. I want to start off with, we have 19 full-time employees, 14 sworn, and 5 civilian. We're slated for 4 part-time. We have 3 of those vacancies filled. And with the sworn, we have the oldest tenured person has 30 years, and we have 4 of them that have less than 6 months on the force. In the civilian side, we have 1 person that has 40 years, and the least is 2 years. With that said, our largest expense is the full-time salaries. After that, we have the overtime salaries that actually have the descriptions for what we use those funds for. After that, we go down to contracted services. And again, if you have any questions above coming down, please stop me. Contractor services, for the most part, are contracts we have for certain equipment. Those contracts are actually maintenance or warranties. Again, you can review those if you have any questions. Building maintenance, it goes to our actual cleaning service, which is outside of the town's cleaning service. And it actually spells out the other 2 things that it takes care of. The capital outlay shows the 2 Chevy Tahoes, which are replacing 2 vehicles. And it also has replacement tasers in the amount of $20,000. Those 7 units are being replaced because there are older technology is not supported by the company anymore. And we're not leasing this piece of equipment, we're actually buying these outright.
How old are they?
We have some that's close to 15 years. We are the first agency in Worcester County and possibly the Tri-County that had tasers. One thing we can go ahead and say about those, once we got that piece of equipment and had them trained, our use of force reports actually went down. Town utilities and maintenance of vehicles, we have those spelled out. Do you have any questions about either one of those? The landline itself is through Comcast. We also have an analog line for backup. Travel slated 2,500. Dues and publications, there are subscriptions and different certifications that some of the officers have, and we take care of that. Employee training spells out the list of the type of education that is covered. In the last budget year, we had officers that actually pulled back on the college and said they wouldn't go because they knew the hardship of what we were in. And they also knew that we had to go ahead and hire at least 2 through the academy. The cost just for training for those 2 people are $4,000+ each. So again, if you look at those numbers, they weren't incorporated in, nor are they in this budget here. But whenever we have to replace an officer, we have to pay the salary for the 6 months they're in the academy. We have to go ahead and pay for the ammunition, the uniforms inside of the academy, the vest, and one thing we don't want to do, like some other agency, have people go ahead and decide to quit in the middle or beginning of the academy, or fail out right at the end. Best not go ahead and brag too much. But we actually have a 100% rating, and that's because of the good job that our officers at the administration level do, again, with Kelsey, in interviewing and the background investigations. So they bring great selections to me. When I look at those selections, I already know that they can go ahead and do 80% of what they have to do physically before they get in the academy, and I know that they're going to be able to have the educational training that they have to go ahead and do. So we've been very blessed We have other agencies that actually have been failing out 20%. So again, that's something that we're very proud of.
Chief, when we met, you brought an interesting figure to my attention, and that was the cost of outfitting an officer. Do you want to share that with everyone? I think you said around $130,000.
Correct. When we go ahead and go through the whole process of starting the hire, paying their salary, the FTO process, again, they are constantly either being paid to learn for a long, extensive period of time. Once they get out on FTO, we actually have someone dedicated that actually has to work with them that actually costs us indirectly a lot of things. We have to go ahead and do psychological reviews, medical, we have to do drug tests, all those things are incorporated. We talk about ammunition, you don't even want to know how much ammunition costs right now. And the question is if you can get any. So we have to put a whole lot of things out and not really know what we're going to get in return, or if they're going to go ahead and stay. Our contracts currently are 4 years. We've had actually, most of the people stay, but we've had people leave out a year early and those sort of things. But we put a lot of time and effort, investment, money to go ahead and train them to that level. My job is to go ahead and train the people to go ahead and take over my job. So again, that's what I want to do. But in doing that, we have a lot of other people, once they see what I've trained or what we have as a department trained, they say, that's a good guy. You need to be at Ocean City or you need to be at Worcester County. So those are the things that we're fighting against. And that's the reason why we have 4 vacancies at a certain time. With the police reform, we're going to have a lot of people who are going to be ready to retire earlier than they would. So a lot of agencies are going to be fighting each other for the best people. And that's the only thing we want for the town of Berlin, the best people we can go ahead and hire. We're actually in information technology. It is actually our software and the licensing. No hardware is actually in this line item, but we're actually looking at just the software itself and the maintenance agreements for that. Fingerprints expense, that's just a pass-through. We actually do background checks for other entities and individuals. We make that much money and a little bit more. Whatever we expense, we definitely make that money back. Vehicle fuel, self-explanatory, and clothing purchase. That line is going to be totally blown because whenever you bring in a new officer, you're buying the clothes themselves. $80 a pair of pants and the same with shirts. So it's a great expense. Laundry and dry cleaning, self-explanatory. Special appropriations are the fees per officer for the range. Office supplies goes through with the miscellaneous office equipment, and our computers are actually very new now, so we don't have to worry about that day. We have MDTs inside the cars, which we hope to actually get through the grant to take care of most of those. Last one is supplies and operations, and these are some of the things that we actually have to purchase out of that line.
Any questions for the chief? All right, thank you, sir.
I would add just one thing, not to beat the cell phones half to death. With our actual body cameras, the cell phones themselves are used to download that information, to go to the cloud, and to tag it. If you didn't, the officers have to go all the way to the station, sit there and type to go ahead and say, this is a traffic stop. Every encounter they have, the cameras are on. Once you get done, you're going to have to tag what that was. If you tag it to be an armed robbery, it stays for this long. If it's a regular traffic stop, it only stays for this long. So, again, you have something big, it's indefinite until we race it. But at smaller contacts, it deletes itself after 30 days or 60 days, whatever we have listed. That is my report, and thank you very much.
Thank you, chief.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll move on to page number 21, and that's Public Works, and we have Town Administrator, also the Department Head for Public Works, and Jimmy Charles, our new Superintendent of Public Works, who will run point on the next couple. What? Public Works, Sanitation, Streets, and I think that's it.
That's it.
Go ahead.
So I'm going to let Jimmy, I think he will do well. The only thing that I want to highlight is to make sure that your page 21 was the second page 21 that Natalie had set out because we inadvertently had admitted that on page 21, line item 5255, the capital outlay for equipment, again, one of those lines with the 1 cent or 0 cent. So I just want to make sure that you all have that one. If you do not,
It was provided separate from your packet. I stuck a single sheet in there to replace that sheet.
if you do not, that was a Ford F-150 to replace a 1989 Ford F-150. So I'll leave it at that, Jimmy, you can control it.
If we start with our Public Works Department, that is one full-time employee, and that is for the Director of Public Works, and that is not filled. We have 5 employees, including myself, in the Streets Department, with Bob Clark, who's been here 12 years, Earl Satchel, Equipment Operator, has been here 6, Tony Sullivan, Equipment Operator 1, been here 4 years, and David Vazine has been here 3 years, Equipment Operator 2. Our sanitation is where we have the most, our experience. Willie Mumford has been here, he's our sanitation crew chief, he's been here 26 years. Samuel Corbin's our sanitation operator, he's been here 15 years. And Ricky Dennis, our sanitation operator, has been here 14 years. So that is a good vast of experience we have down there at Public Works.
Can you talk about this truck they want to, you're suggesting to replace? How old is this truck?
It's a 1989 Ford pickup truck, and it's its better days. So,
33 years old,
yeah.
almost. Yeah. Oh, wow.
And the thing that I would share on that, the 89 needs to be replaced. If we do postpone that, I understand that that's what we do, but I will tell you that a year from now, we'll be sitting here again for that vehicle as well as another vehicle.
And some others.
And this particular vehicle was on the prior budget for replacement, it was postponed.
For $30,000.
For $30,000, that's
Who
correct.
uses this truck and how's it used?
We use it as, right now, it was hauling trailers around. The new truck I would probably be driving the new truck. I would take over the new truck, then we would get a new truck. But the one right now, it hauls grass cutters and that stuff. We have some other ones that we would cycle down to replace it in that area. Grass cutters, and then we put branches in and stuff like that. It's just a utility truck we have around the shop. But it's also, I think, our parts and stuff are starting to add up to expense, replacing brakes, tires, and wear and tear on the truck.
So in 5300 Public Works, the highlights are, that is a vacant position as we speak. It is for a Public Works Director. There's really nothing in here, and I guess what I will highlight, we do have it tucked away under contracted services. If you look at the bottom entry, the uniform cleaning services, we have 8 employees in that department. We started this about a year ago. They get work pants, work shirt, short sleeve, long sleeve, wet weather gear, winter parka, winter jacket. They get all that for the entire department. The entire department's $125 a week. And if they rip a shirt, rip a pair of pants, they throw them in the bin. On Monday, they get a brand new shirt or a brand new pair of pants. And that is probably one of the best buys I think that we've made since we've been here. It was, I don't want to call it a fluke, but it is what it is, and we're going to take it to the bank because it's a good thing. And that is pretty much, if you go to page 22, for the Public Works Department again, there is a new computer that needs to be replaced down there as well. And then everything else in that department is pretty much status quo. And then you move into page 24, and I'll let Jimmy take off again, and that's the sanitation department.
We have, again, we have 3 employees. Do you want to talk about the Heron Park dumpster?
Yeah, why don't let's bring it up, because breaking news, Mayor,
Uh-oh.
Okay, breaking news. Heron Park Recycling, I'll let Jimmy share what we've learned today. It's not absolute, but we've got some fine tuning to do on it, but go ahead, Jimmy.
We currently are doing 2 30-yard dumpsters that we do with the single stream, and they're open to anyone in the surrounding community. Anyone can go there and dump, not just Berlin residents. So, and it's a huge cost for the town of Berlin. $50,000 annually is what it's running us. So we do see trash in the dumpsters, which it adds additional cost in there too, if we don't get it out. But what we also have is crewmen have to go in and remove that trash. So we have time that it's creating more employee time to remove that trash out of them dumpsters. And it would be, we should recommend eliminating that single stream option that we have. We do curbside recycling pickup throughout our community now. And then what we talked about with doing was, we have a 20-yard dumpster over there. We can add another 30-yard dumpster for roughly a one-time cost of about $9,000 in that range. And that would take all the cardboard. We can just, residents can go, break down the cardboard and insert it into these. And that's where we'd have just cardboard only. With the single cardboard, we have one dumpster that is designated for cardboard only. So we'd have 2 dumpsters for cardboard only.
With the cardboard slots, not having, with the slots in there, not the open heads. is what you're
Correct.
saying. So
And
you
we
have
would
to
have to
break
break
it
them down and
in order
then
for it to go
insert
in
them
there.
in, yes. We found that the county would come and deliver, currently we pay $125 now for that service of them coming, emptying the dumpster and returning it back.
That's the slotted dumpster.
That's a slotted dumpster. So we would recommend probably getting a second 30-yard dumpster that we can continue to fill with cardboard. And then we were looking at roughly twice a week for 4 weeks. And that would be roughly $1,000 a week. And then looking at roughly 12, maybe a little more, depending on the capacity and how much we're actually holding in these dumpsters a year, plus the $9,000 for this year of the $9,000 in the dumpster fee for this year. So we could eliminate roughly $30,000 in cost if we eliminate the single stream.
And I'm a little lost on the news. So the news is a $9,000 expenditure for a dumpster.
A $9,000 one-time expenditure for a dumpster that's 1/3 larger than the current slotted dumpster that's there,
Which we own.
which
Yes.
we own.
So we own one dumpster, or is it the county?
No, we do own it.
Okay? And you're saying that for $9,000 more, we can buy a second dumpster?
Correct.
At 10 yards bigger, so a third bigger.
And
Then it's $125 per slotted dumpster
the dump?
for the county to come pick up and haul away. So we calculated $250
Okay.
to snatch them both every 10 days, times months, times a year. And it's about
Well, we could, about $12,000.
$12,000.
Would you also be able to do, using the dumpster that we have, just have them pick it up 4 times? For $125, it would cover the cost of the dumpster, and you just pick it up more frequently.
Possibly, if we run into the situation where we need more capacity, then we could look into getting the second dumpster. So we could try the 20-yard dumpster for now. And then watch our capacity each week and make decisions on that.
So I think the message for everybody at home and everybody here is that when single stream was originally proposed, it was a pilot program. We phased out what was the sorting yourself on William Street at the Public Works Yard and transitioned to the single stream recycling. The cost has become exorbitant, as Jimmy stated. It's over at least $50,000 a year to cover that. And in the FY22 budget discussions, we said, hey, look, that's just not sustainable. So we are looking at some alternatives. What those are specifically, we don't know. but we safely wrote down the $50,000 expenditure to $25,000 right this moment. As the budget gets closer to adoption and submitting a formal budget, we'll have a more clear plan what that may look like.
Correct.
So, thank you.
The original thought process, so you have two big open bins, you were gonna eliminate one, cutting that expense.
No, the original proposal was to explore doing away with the single stream contractor that we have currently, which is causing that additional cost of $50,000, and to see if we could partner with the county in some way or augment the services that we're already providing with the assets that we already have, cover the same need, just in a different way. So, as you can tell, there's no formal plan right this moment, but we will, once the adoption and introduction take place, that there will be a formal plan for 22.
But what you're saying is get rid of the single stream altogether and add a second slotted one, no single stream at all, right?
Correct. It's a driving cost and we do offer recycling through town. Our trucks run two, and we could do 3 times a week.
Right.
And so each homeowner could put it out front and we could pick it up.
And we've been kicking around ideas of doing single stream curbside, doing public service announcements to educate people that you can recycle. Maybe this is a good time also. You can recycle at home. There's a set date that a truck comes around and you can do that curbside. And the other thing is that helps reduce, if you're looking here at our budget, let's see, we're under sanitation contracted services. If you look at the Worcester County landfill, that's our tipping fee. So under 5,200 contracted services, Worcester County landfill, you can see that we're paying about $136,500 in tipping fees. The goal is to get that lower. We get a little bit of a kickback in a discount from the county if we send them recyclables. The only caveat is they do not handle single stream recycling. That is trucked up north into Delaware. So we have Jimmy now, hopefully, on our county representation for the sanitation commission. So hopefully we can start advocating for that single stream recycling here in Worcester County.
That pretty much concludes sanitation, so page 26, streets.
Streets, we are looking to purchase a new sweeper. We looked at various sweepers and had demonstrations from various companies. We have one that we're interested in and pursuing. The sweeper, it's updated more to what we're looking for to meet the town's needs. The sweeper also has capacity to do storm drains and stuff, pick up leaves. And it also can dump into dumpsters and stuff. It has a raised bed that would dump into a 30-yard dumpster that we could back up to if that was so needed to do. It's a non-CDL chassis. It has possibility of doing a non-CDL chassis, allowing for multiple operators throughout the Public Works Department. It has a wide capability of sweeping and has over a 72-inch sweeping area to come down through. And it's a regen vacuum system. So what it actually does is it forces air through one side and then it sucks it back up through the other. Where our unit we use now is just a brush that's brushing the materials forward and then it's sucked up into the machine. This is more of a vacuum type of a system, where the other one is just a brushing into the department. So this should actually make a cleaner presentation of our streets.
Now, will you send the specifications out to everyone, please?
Sure, we can do that.
Thank you.
So when you talked about the non-CDL chassis, was the previous one CDL?
It was not a previous CDL
The one that
chassis.
we have now, no.
Yeah. You said no, it's not?
The one we have now is not. But-
Okay,
but-
that's what I was-
But the first new one that we were looking at was a
Was.
CDL chassis.
So that limited the
Right.
users, gotcha.
And the one we have now, it's actually like a three-wheel chassis, and it's not a easy piece of equipment to run. You gotta kind of understand how to run it and not be, you're kind of sitting in the middle, it's big and bulky, it's hard to see the curve, so there's only a few operators that maintain to do that in a safe way.
It's old school.
It's also.
Not as old school as a broom.
And then, in streets, we have, and we just removed we removed the 2 paving projects that were in there.
Yeah, in capital outlay on page 27, 52, 55, we originally had in the budget Graham Avenue East and Stevenson Lane. And just coincidentally, they are, if you will, if you take a look at the DBF street study that was done in 2018, coincidentally, they just happen to be the next 2.
And the cost for those two, I don't recall.
Or about $45,000 for the 2.
And then do you want to touch on the power washer also?
And the power washer, we are in need of a new power washer. And I think that this hits on what they need. You know, the question came up, Bob Clark dreams big, as I call it, and there's nothing wrong with that. He actually told me, I don't know if he shared this with you, he was thinking about a natural gas or a propane, which is significantly more, so this is a gas diesel power washer, which does heat, and that's, you know, we have one now, but it's on its last leg as well.
Sorry, Jeff, the sidewalk repair,
Sidewalk repair is something we atypically each year put money off for that because, you know, a good example right now would be, got to get my thoughts straight with the stuff we got going on. We just tore over on Flower Street. We, the town, did some work over there to shut a water line off. And in turn, we had to remove the sidewalk. So that stuff happens.
okay, so
Yeah.
So it would be a small in-town project, not.
Repairs and
not-
maintenance.
but nothing,
Repairs.
nothing.
Not major
No.
project, yes.
And I will tell you that $5,000 for sidewalks is nothing.
And the other thing, just before we get off the streets, if you go back up to, what page is it, 26, line item, second one, it's salaries, part-time and temp, ending in
Yes.
4,003. Initially, when staff presented the budget, it was for 1 part-time employee. We have increased that amount to hopefully cover 2 because there is enough workload for that in FY22. So hopefully Kelsey and Jimmy's interviews will be successful.
We are definitely bringing one individual back from last year by the name of Rashawn Spence. So he will be back. So tomorrow we're interviewing potentially 1 more. So
Okay. And then I think we have some in our utility funds also, so.
We do. The big thing for the seasonal this year, big thing I consider, with the farmer's market, with the streets being closed and the cafe tables. So one of the focuses of this seasonal will be, he will be our Sunday morning special. He will bring the tables out, take the tables down and be here, you know, during the farmer's market. So I think that's definitely needed. We'll find other things for him to do, I can assure you of that.
So before we move on page 28, Mr. Mayor, could you please elaborate on the town streetlights for $67,000?
Yeah, that's not me. That's an expenditure, I think, for the cost of lighting all the streets, right? Yeah.
Correct.
That's correct.
So that's
This
all-
is just
so this isn't-
electricity
this
that
is
we are
electric.
paying that each big street light uses.
So where are the replacement?
That's actually going to be it's in the utility budget that you have.
Are we
for,
talking about the
electric.
decorative
The
lights?
holiday lights.
Yep.
The holiday lights would be in the electric department.
Okay.
Because the electric department actually owns all the assets, so that is not going to be in this.
The ones that we had
The lights on the
for
tree.
Christmas?
The lights on the tree.
Oh, well, you had me confused with
Those would be some expensive lights there, council member.
Decorative lights.
Decorative.
That's the
Yes,
cost
when
of
I think
lighting
the
all
holly
of them.
lights, I'm thinking the ones they hang
No,
just for
no,
Christmas.
decorative lights would stay permanent on the trees, accent lights.
All right, thank you, Jimmy, and thank you, Jeff. Let's move on to economic development with Ivy Wells, please.
Hello, good evening.
And we're on page 29.
Thank you, Dave. Last week, we received an email from Town Administrator Jeff Fleetwood to explain what your department does for the citizens of the town. So I took that to heart and I actually composed something. Once again, Ivy Wells, Director of Economic and Community Development for the town of Berlin since November 2014. I have one employee, Allison Early, who's our administrative assistant. She was hired in October 2018. I'd also like to say that our department includes 10 volunteers at the Welcome Center, volunteers for our ambassador program, and also 200 plus business owners. My department is responsible for maintaining the economic vitality and vibrancy of the town of Berlin. We assist businesses to navigate town, county, and state government logistics when opening and operating a business. We assist property owners with vacancies. We recruit potential new businesses and work with developers on vacant parcels. Manage the Berlin Main Street program as part of our designation with the Maryland Main Street program and the National Main Street program. Just recently now manage the Art and Entertainment District as part of our designation from the Maryland State Arts Council. Manage the Berlin Welcome Center and Ambassador program. Assist town businesses, nonprofits, and civic organizations with their marketing, event planning, and more as liaison for the town. We write and facilitate Department of Housing and Community Development grants, Maryland State Arts Council grants, Worcester County Arts Council grants, Main Street Improvement grants, etc. The list is too long, I won't get into that. General promotion and PR for the town, including running the town's tourism website and our social media pages. Responsible for issuing business licenses, manage the Berlin Enterprise and Opportunity Zones. Facilitate the Berlin Facade Grant Program, manage and organize the town events such as Berlin Farmers Market, Christmas Parade, New Year's Eve events, holiday events, Oktoberfest, and Second Fridays. I represent Berlin at all local, county, state, and national meetings and events respective to economic development, tourism, historic revitalization, and the arts. So that's what myself and Allison, that's what we do.
Do me a favor and explain to me your role in assisting property owners with vacancies.
I'll get a call from a property owner saying that a tenant has issued a notice, and a lot of times I'll keep a list. People call me, potential business owners call me and say, hey, I would love to open a business in downtown Berlin or anywhere in Berlin. When something becomes available, please let me know. And then I usually reach out to that business tenant, or I'll make the connection between the potential entrepreneur and the property. And then there's also several loans and grant opportunities available to potential businesses, Maryland Capital Enterprises. There's Neighborhood Business Works loans, a variety of grants that I introduce the potential business owner that they're able to apply for and try to entice them to open a business here.
To clarify, I think you are not talking about residential vacancies.
No.
You're talking about commercial.
Commercial vacancies, sorry about that.
No.
Commercial vacancies
I
only.
understand.
Sorry, thanks for clarifying, Mary. With respect to the Department of Economic and Community Development budget, we'll go under the revenue section, under line item 3246, Main Street Tourism, 2018, 2019, through donations and vendor fees, we brought in $35,286.88. Then $22,931, and then obviously last year for COVID, it was only a $6,800 revenue source. My budget pretty much stayed the same as it has always been. There are some things were more itemized this time. Fireworks for $10,000 is in here. Downtown landscaping for $3,200. That was just recently added to my department last year, and that takes care of the memorial gardens down by Baker and Main Street. And then also, pretty much everything else has stayed the same. Under travel, the National Main Street Conference was eliminated for this year. And that's pretty much it.
So how did you get the landscaping? That, I mean, in my mind, that sounds like public works.
Well, it was under building and grounds, I think, and then since it's downtown, I was told that it's moved to economic and community development. I think Ivy was told the same thing.
So I was asked this question, and I guess this is the time to ask that question. When it comes to events, like when we have fiddlers and the farmer's market, and we have to have the other departments come in and work and handle those items, someone questioned overtime. Is that something that comes out of your department, or is that, or do you, are they?
Respective departments.
That's what I was.
Councilmember Nichols, in the budget, that's why they're under overtime allocations, there are descriptions, and it identifies the departments that have a touch to the events and things of that nature, and why their overtime may be higher or lower.
Right, the events that the town puts on, there's no additional staff expense on the part of economic and community development. Oktoberfest, we do receive sponsorship funding for some of that, for much of that. And then with donations, we also use that money and reallocate it towards event entertainment expenses. But staff time is not in my budget at all.
Thank you.
And then one of the things that I did leave out, I don't, for the last several years, I haven't requested anything for capital project items, but one of the things that has always been on my radar, which I think that we really need to look forward to, is connectivity, sidewalks for pedestrians. And I also noticed that over by Dollar General, I was just talking with Chief Arnold about this, over by Dollar General, when the sidewalk was completed, it didn't connect to the other part of the sidewalk on Bay Street, and there's this.
That's going to be corrected with this 376.
Oh, good,
State highway.
okay.
Yeah.
And then also sidewalks from Main Street down to Rite Aid and where Food Lion is, and then the sidewalk connectivity to Stephen Decatur Park also.
And being we're on sidewalks real quick, just to share, Maryland State Highway Administration has agreed up on North Main Street, on the west side of the fire company side, if you will, that real tight intersection down there that wraps around to the county library. The Maryland State Highway Administration has agreed to install sidewalks that will run directly up to, instead of having to walk down Harrison Avenue, there'll be a sidewalk. So that will either take place at the end of the current FY or sometime at the beginning of the new FY, depending on SHA's funding.
And just for the Rite Aid thing, you're correct going down Main Street, but if you do have to get safely, just for everybody watching, if you do have to get safely to Rite Aid via sidewalk, you can take William Street and it'll get you pretty close.
Right, but then there's that gap between Rite Aid and I think it's Cheers.
Yes, on Old Ocean City Boulevard.
On Old Ocean City Boulevard, correct.
So.
Ivy, you said that there were over 200 licensed, 200 licensed businesses?
Business, correct, more than 200. It changes every week. I usually get with Rondell on that.
And how much is that licensing fee?
$75.
And that's a year?
Yearly fee per year.
Whether,
So that's roughly about $15,000.
whether it's a hotel or a retail?
Doesn't matter.
Correct, and Natalie brought up a good point last week at our staff meeting that she's interested in reevaluating our business license based on square footage for commercial property.
And just an approximate cost so that everybody that is here and watching can see, an approximate cost of the events is about $100,000 a year, I think, based off of our last numbers that went around last fiscal year. Am I correct?
About right.
It's around
About
$100,000.
100,000, just shy.
When can we expect the information on the reevaluation of the licensing fee, the business fee? I think?
Would you like to see it in this year or for next year?
I'd like to see it as soon as possible.
Sure.
All right, and any other questions for our Economic and Community Development Director? All right, let's move on to the Planning Department, and that is done by our Planning and Zoning Director, Dave Engelhardt, on page 32.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yeah, it starts on page 32. As usual, my budget is fairly small, not all the line items that everybody has. The biggest single expense you'll see in the middle of page 32 is contracted services. That is inspection for our permits, our construction permits that we use. Middle Department Inspection Agency is a third-party inspector. We have a contract with them. There's a specific fee schedule for each type of inspection they perform for us. So just as Natalie referred to much earlier tonight, we kind of forecast what permits we think might be coming in the year. It's often difficult to figure out which fiscal year when a project's going to fall into when people start talking about it, because the process is long to go from concept to permit. But that expectation of contracted services is what our best forecast for what might be coming as far as an expense. The other one, if you go to page 33, down near the bottom, you see one percentage that probably jumps out at you. It's 500%. That is for office supplies, and that it takes into the laptop, docking station, and accessories as suggested by Cards Computers. It's for my workstation, which is still under warranty, but that warranty will expire in FY22. They're 3-year warranties. I have no problems with it. This is the estimate, their best estimate for each department. Mary usually gets those and gives them to us. I think Natalie said that they have 3 in her department. Last year we got a new one for Carolyn Duffy in my department, and this one was my, if we get the laptop, that's the major part of that expense that comes in under office supplies. I think everything else is either real close to what it was or less. There's only 2 of us in the department. Carolyn Duffy, you're all familiar with her. I couldn't live without her, I will say that. She will be here 15 years on July 31st. I will be here 8 years on August 26th. And I hope you will remember us and take care of us in your budget negotiations. And I'll go back to one thing. I don't mean to beat a dead horse. I took this as a personnel matter when we were talking about this vehicle allowance for 3 employees. But tonight it's been discussed at which departments they're in, so it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that I'm one of the affected employees. So earlier, Councilmember Nur was kind of wondering about the history of it. And I'll tell you how it came about for me. My first year with the town, working for the town, I started in August, like I just said, around this time. So I'm now working for the town, maybe 6, 7 months. And I was tasked with preparing my budget for the first time. Fine, so I look at the budget of my predecessor. And I said, what's this line item for? Vehicle allowance. I had travel, I had training, and it was for that amount, that same exact amount that we're looking at taking out of this year's budget. So I inquired, and they said, my predecessor had a vehicle by the town, and it needed to be replaced, but chose this instead of having a take-home vehicle. So I inquired about it a little further, and I was told, you write a letter to the mayor and to then Town Administrator Laura Allen and request it. Our employee handbook that I was handed the day I started says that the department directors will be provided with a take-home vehicle. I never was, I was never informed of that. I had to find out about being shortchanged versus other department directors. Nobody's fault, just maybe it was an oversight, but I had to ask for it. That's how I came to be one of the three that are getting this vehicle allowance. And I will say, at this stage, I have asked for personal increases in the past to try and put me on par with what other department directors receive. I understand their value. I think my value is, to the town, is as strong. And not getting those, if you take this away, you are punishing me for what I think is extraordinary performance. I'm sorry to toot my own horn. But Carolyn Duffy and I, as 2 employees, we handle what 5 employees used to do in the past with 1/3 of the activity. And I'm sorry, but I take it as a personal affront to be asked to take less and keep going backwards when it should be moving in the other direction for our performance and our loyalty on all of my fellow department directors and employees.
And I'll also say that you are a tremendous asset to the town, and that goes for all of our department heads. None of the budget recommendations are designed to reflect your value of being less. You are crucial to the work that's done here. People cherish the work that you do, but we do have some financial constraints, and I hope you understand that it's not easy.
Mr. Mayor, I'll respectfully say it's a matter of fairness. And at the time I received it, that was the consideration. It was either that or, well, do we get him a vehicle? Well, not this year, we can't afford to. That's how it first came about. It was not my decision. It was in place before I took over. And now I think that amount of money is probably, I don't know, I haven't quoted it, but I think it's less expensive than having a vehicle, as the employee handbook says, for me to drive back and forth to work. I believe it is.
I don't have that cost in front of me, but thank you for that.
But I truly believe it is. And at this stage, I don't know. I don't know what else to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for our planning and zoning director, Dave Engelhardt?
Well, not so much today, but the statement he just made, the allowance, and again, I don't like this title because I feel like if it were something, and this is me, this is not anybody here, this is me, if this is something that was in the handbook and that was supposedly supposed to happen, and it didn't happen, and we're going to give you this in place of this.
No, there's no such wording about an allowance. It
Right,
talks
right.
about a vehicle.
Right, a vehicle. So if the vehicle's not there, and then the allowance comes to play, and it's become a part of what is his.
It has been a part of the salary, it's reported on W-2. It's
Yeah, pay
been
taxes on
taxed.
it.
So it is not a special item. Sorry, it's been allocated on the budget all these years as a separate line item, but it is part of the salary.
When you see the vehicle allowance hanging out there, it's a shiny object.
The biggest mistake I can tell you I've made, one of the biggest mistakes I've made since I've been here was not advocating 7, 8 years ago for that just to be
What it is.
rolled in.
And And that's hurt us too.
It does.
Monetarily, I'll tell you, that's hurt us because it's not figured in our state retirement or our social security earnings. So we already paid a price for that.
Any questions for our planning and zoning director?
Thank you for your comment, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
All right, up next is Parks and Recreation, and I believe that Mary runs point on that.
There's very little change from prior years. Parks and Recreations is primarily just for the routine maintenance of the parks. In previous years and going forward, Jimmy was a little too new this year to pull into it too much. He had much bigger fish to fry with the public works, sanitation, and streets budgets. But obviously I'll work closely with him in not only determining this budget, but also ultimately determining what expenditures to make when. So there's really not a whole lot to talk about here. It's virtually unchanged from year to year.
And I think the inflated price we see with the MDOT Rails to Trails program is what's giving that sizable increase of 196% for everybody looking at
Yes,
home.
exactly. And then because they are grant funds, I sort of
It's all speculative.
use the numbers, but then I kind of forget about them because they're yeah.
But people at home will see that 196%
Yes,
increase.
you are correct.
There are a couple of capital items like a replacement of a portion of fence between Dr. William Henry Park and 113, the pavilions at Henry Park and Stephen Decatur for the roofs, and phase 1 of the Rails to Trails program.
And just for a little more clarity, the capital equipment of $108,500 would be if we are successful in the Community Parks and Playgrounds grant for the Stephen Decatur Park permanent restrooms.
Which we're all keeping our fingers crossed for a favorable outcome.
Hopefully, well, we'll know when the state budget is set. Until that time, we just won't know.
And I want to also caveat I think it's, I don't have the glasses on, but I think it's a $5,000 figure for the Henry Park fence replacement. That quote we got probably 2.5 months ago. I will tell you that to replace that wrought iron fence, it's aluminum.
Yeah, that's aluminum. I was going to say it's aluminum, not wrought iron.
But it appears to be wrought iron, but aluminum fencing. That only covered at the time, if I remember correctly, 7 sections. So I'll go out on a limb and guarantee that price has gone up since, as all building material has. So we might be going from 7 sections to 5. And a number of those sections are being held up with zip ties.
And they're gone because of theft.
Correct.
Damage.
Or
Damage.
All right, so up next is debt service. It's relatively short, but I think an important distinction would be the fact that, correct me if I'm wrong, Natalie, 2/3 of that is debt service from Heron Park, correct? So just, everybody has an FYI of the $300,000, roughly 2/3 of that is Heron Park. All right, I think that concludes the departments. Do we have, let's see here, I think debt service updates is number 6, Natalie. Do you have any debt service updates? I think that's what it says for the agenda.
Well, what's projected for fiscal '22, that's the debt service. There are 3 bonds there on the general fund, and the main one is the Henry's Park, and the Grand Avenue on 2nd.
Heron Park, just for clarity,
Okay,
sorry.
I'm sorry. Heron Park.
And then, do we have any other questions or comments from the council while we have everybody present?
Yeah, I have a couple. So I mentioned it earlier, and we just kind of got lost in the shuffle. And even though we don't have it, there's preparations for the potential federal funding that we're supposedly allocated, correct? For stormwater and
The federal funding you're talking about.
the $4 million.
$4 million, yes. There's been close coordination with both senators' offices. The legislation was so new that the parameters were still a little foggy as to what they can be spent on. I don't know if we've got any updates.
We have not received any more updates since the initial communication, so we have not received any specifics no, we have received the dates when those fundings will be distributed.
Yeah, so no updates and no funding yet.
All we know is $4.066 million, 2 equal installments in 3 years after receipt that have been spent properly. And we know you cannot appropriate any of the monies toward pensions and or retirements.
Any other questions?
And so we're gonna do another budget, one of these again?
For the,
It is
For-
not,
just for the
it
utility
is
side.
not going to be a budget session, budget work session. It's going to be a budget introduction, which entitles a more certain report for fiscal '22. So it would be a step up from the draft, closer to the final by half.
Okay.
So the budget will be introduced by the ordinance on May the 10th.
There is another budget work session for the utility
For the
funds.
utilities,
On
is
the-
that what?
Yeah, on the 26th.
On the
So the
20th.
26th will be what we have in right now, but we will cover water, sewer, and stormwater, electric as well.
Well, from what I've been kind of personally or purposely staying quiet, just asking questions here and there because I wanted to get my head around all of this. So as my role as a council member, I know the mayor presents the budget. I would like to advocate, given some information tonight, for a 1% COLA for staff, rolling in the vehicle allowances, redoing the cell phones, taking Jay's suggestion of new hires taking maybe a half rate decrease on the cell phones. But I'd also like to re-examine the capital, the truck, the paving, recycling, which we've actually all talked about tonight. And what remains, adding that to the funding that I mentioned earlier, the reimbursements, and putting that into our reserves and contingency. So I
I'm
don't know
sorry.
how I,
You said
Address that.
recycling?
the recycling, but it's we already talked about that.
The dumpster.
Oh, you don't know recycling
Yeah,
program,
yes,
okay.
yes,
I thought you
sorry.
said recycling truck.
No, I'm sorry. So, now I had typed all this up because I'm a little nerdy with Excel, but that is a consideration that I would like to submit to finance, town administration, and the mayor.
Thank you. Please pass that along to us if you don't
I
mind.
will retype it tomorrow. And that's all I have.
So exactly what is the procedure? At the council, we have some differences between what the mayor proposed and what I would suggest. And we can recommend it, but how does it get changed?
So normally, as in, I'm just gonna base what's in the past, is the discussion appears and happens, an agreement in place, and I would receive a clear instruction to either keep the line item or adjust the line item or increase or decrease. So I would go back and between tomorrow and May the 10th, I would rework the projections with the instructions in place and resend the reports would be introduced further on
And who do you take those final instructions from?
from all of you.
That ultimate decision comes from the mayor.
Right.
So what do? Do we just write up our ideas and email them to you?
Well, I
Right,
think it
so
would be
if-
good if you voice your ideas now so everybody can hear it, because if you, this is, obviously public.
Well,
So if you would voice your ideas right now, so we don't have them resend it over, or whichever way is better.
And the other thing is that, say we get to the introduction of the budget, we don't have Gaskell here right this moment to provide all the inner workings, but if you disagree with something, it's no different than another ordinance, and you want to make an amendment to, I believe, you have that ability to amend. How that goes and plays out, I don't exactly know.
But what's needed,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to put myself in the seat of a council member for a second. We've had discussion this evening. I think that it was good conversation, very good conversation amongst all. That direction, whatever that direction may be, Mayor, that needs to happen sooner than later, because I think in fairness to the council members, they would like to see, if there are any changes, or there, whatever, but they need to see that. I believe if I were in that seat, I'd like to see that well before the introduction.
And all of that information is available to any council member. When you've asked about the different COLAs that are available and things of that nature, the finance director can give you any of those numbers. If you want to know what something looks like, if it's different than what's presented, you have all the tools at your disposal to get those numbers. And we will continue to give you that information. The dialogue here this evening is very helpful, but we are also constrained by the available money that we have. If we had an endless source, there's a lot of stuff that we would choose to continue to fund or fund greater, but that's not the case.
You know, you talk about the process, and it is the mayor's budget. It is the mayor's budget that he presents to the council after input from the department heads and the council and that kind of stuff. But it is our responsibility to approve or disapprove and to adopt that budget. Now, I really do hope that before we get to that point, we can try to at least see each other's point of view and understand that this council, I think, really feels strongly about reinstituting those items that we feel that should be provided to our staff. When we talked about cell phones, we talked about training, and we talked about other things that we feel strongly about. And I do believe that we can sit here in this place, in these seats, and talk about how we value staff and how it is important for staff to feel worthwhile. And Dave made some splendid points. But unless we support staff where they are coming from, what good are we? And what I'm trying to get to is the services that are being provided, not by us. We don't provide any direct services to the citizens of the town of Berlin, but it is the staff. And I do believe we are, with considering what has been withdrawn from the budget related to staff, I do believe we are compromising the quality of services that will be provided to the citizens of the town of Berlin. Our citizens are accustomed to a certain level of performance by staff. Withdrawing these things, I believe, will really hinder that performance in that overall quality of services provided to the citizens of our county. And Natalie, I really would like to see your assessment of the business license fees as soon as possible.
Sure.
Any other comment?
Well, I'll just say I wholeheartedly agree with what Dean just said, that these cuts will be thrown around and it will hurt the town as a whole. So I personally would like to see the cell phone payments reinstated, vehicle allowance reinstated, and a 1.5% COLA raise for these staff. And I do believe we could put the strategic plan funds on hold for this year. And use that money for these other things.
I will just, hearing the idea of the COLAs, just so that it's in full perspective for everyone, I think the town administrator gave everybody a breakdown of the COLAs and how much they would cost. I would also say that the remaining portion of that form needs to go to the council as well, which would show the impact to all of our utility funds as well. And please keep in mind the utility fund draft budgets that were sent to you and the lack of ability to fund capital within those. So if you do make a decision in the general fund, I would ask whatever the council decides to hold true across all funds, which would mean rate increases, I think, or elimination of what little capital we're actually able to invest in. So, with that being said, if there's nothing else, then we'll conclude our work session for this evening. Thank you for everyone tuning in for both parts, and thank you to staff for helping fill us all in on where we're at. Thank you.
Praise the Lord, pass the one.
Say that again?
Praise the Lord, pass the one.
It was your job, Rick.
Praise the Lord, Brandon.